Having a hot tub website, having owned 4 hot tubs, and having a hot tub YouTube channel, I get asked a lot of questions about hot tubs. Go figure. And when you've never owned a hot tub before, you have a ton of questions. Luckily, I have a video about the 23 most crucial things that you need to know before you buy your first hot tub. I'm going to put the link to that video. It's here on YouTube. I'm going to put the link to that in the description down below. You'll also see a card for it at the end of this video. But one of those questions pertains to whether or not it's okay to buy a used hot tub. Is that a crazy idea, or is it a way to save a crazy amount of cash? Well, it could be both, depending upon your perspective. I've owned 4 different hot tubs. This is my 4th. And one of the hot tubs, the one at our last house, was indeed a used hot tub. So let me tell you the story of that, and you can decide for yourself whether or not that sounds like it's worth the hassle. I bought it not on Craigslist. I bought it on one of those like neighborhood.com forums for the neighborhood that I was in. And even though it turns out that the seller wasn't in the same neighborhood, somehow they were on that private group for that neighborhood. But anyway, they wanted $500 for the hot tub. They said it was 10 years old. And so I think my wife negotiated them down to like $350. I found a company to move it. They said they would move it for $350 from point A to point B. They also said that they would, quote unquote, hook it up for $50. Now, to my wife, who was making these calls, she thought that meant hook it up. In reality, what they meant for that was that if you have the wire from the junction disconnect box laying there next to the hot tub, they will literally connect it to the hot tub for $50. And if that's your situation, that'd take you about 5 minutes to do, not worth paying somebody $50. But if you're thinking connecting the electricity from the hot tub to a disconnect box to a breaker panel, that's a whole lot more money than $50, and not something that a hot tub delivery company is going to be qualified to do. Anyway, I'm digressing. I got to the hot tub place, checked it out. It was obvious from looking at it that it was way older than 10 years. It was probably 15 or 20 years old at least. He had also taken off the wood siding that was on the hot tub. He said it was to make it easier to move. I believe it's because it was in such bad shape, he thought if it was just in pieces that I would never notice, which was kind of true. Anyway, I did notice that a lot of the equipment, the wires, had been chewed through by rodents of some kind. So in the end, I knocked him down on price to $150. As it stands, that was probably still more than he deserved. But in the end, it got us a nice hot tub for not as much money as we would have spent on a brand new one. But let's keep going on the story. So get it delivered back to our house, get it on. I had already arranged a bed of pavers that were fairly level to set the hot tub on. They set it there, and then I sent about trying to figure out how to connect it to the electrical panel. That ended up being a nightmare because I didn't have an open slot in the breaker panel that was nearest the hot tub. And I got quotes as high as $3,000 to fix that. In the end, I still paid about $700 to a company who jury-rigged the breaker panel in a legitimate way. They were licensed and bonded, and then ran a disconnect box closer to the hot tub from the main breaker panel, and then connected it all up. And like I said, that was about $700. So if you're keeping score at home, paid $150 for the hot tub, $350 to move it, and we're now up to $700 to connect it electrically. However, it was readily apparent, I mentioned those wires that had been chewed through earlier, it was readily apparent that I needed to replace the wiring harness from the various components. There's a main control box under your hot tub. I'm going to open mine up in a second and show you mine. But all of the things that connect to that, things like the pump and the blower, those and the top side panel, those all connect into that box. And all of those wires had been chewed through. So I thought, well, I'll just Google this company and order some replacement parts. Well, it turns out the company was out of business. That was one of my first clues that perhaps this was older than the 10 years he said it was. So then I decided, well, I'll just get a brand new control box, brand new pump and blower. And that's what I ended up doing. All told, I got a kit from Spa Depot to do that. And that was probably about $800. So again, $150, $300, $700, and now an additional $800 to replace all of that equipment. And then the equipment comes in and it's all 1.5-inch PVC. The hot tub is all 2-inch PVC. And so I thought, well, I'll just go down to Home Depot and get an adapter. Surely that can't be that hard. Turns out hot tub plumbing, specifically hot tub PVC, is kind of like cell phone chargers in the early 2000s. Every make and model and brand is a little bit different than the next, and they're totally not interchangeable. I went to every kind of home goods store you can imagine. I went to every plumbing supply store in the Austin, Texas area, kind of near where I lived. Couldn't find an adapter to save my life. In the end, I ended up calling Spa Depot and explaining the situation, and they mailed me the part that I needed. So all told, this is probably a month later at this point. My original plan was not to have to fix up the hot tub completely from scratch by myself. I wanted to be able to buy the hot tub, pay to hook it up, fill it up with water and go, and that was not at all what happened. I called a few different hot tub companies thinking, well, surely one of them, I can pay them $1,000 and they'll get it running, but no. Most hot tub companies want to either sell you a new hot tub, or if they do repair and maintenance on a hot tub, they only work on in-ground ones. It was very, very hard for me to find anybody that was even willing to talk to me. And the one company I did find that said they could do it flaked out on me so many times I eventually gave up. I ended up doing all of the work myself except for that electrical work I mentioned. It was surprisingly easy, and I have no previous hot tub or plumbing experience, bear in mind. So it was surprisingly easy to do. I figured it out. There's some YouTube videos that came in handy along the way, but if I can figure it out, I know you can figure it out too. So long story short, it was worth it. All told, I can't do the math in my head for whatever that was. 150 plus 350, so that's 500. 700, that's 1,200. Another 800 or so, that's $2,000. So all told, probably $2,000 and a fair amount of my sweat equity. But the hot tub ended up being a great hot tub. It's probably still in use now at the house with the people that we sold it to. We got a lot of enjoyment out of it, and I can't complain. We couldn't have bought a brand new hot tub for probably not quite that much, at least not one that was as large as that one was, and it was at least as large as this one is. So I can't complain, and I also learned a lot about repair and maintenance on hot tubs at that hot tub, and I'm going to share those tips with you on my channel here. Anyway, I told you I was going to show you what the underside of my current hot tub looks like behind the panels. So this is what it looks like here. You see the control box there in the center, and this hot tub, unlike my previous one, has 2 pumps and doesn't have a blower. And you see the pumps there on either side and below the main control panel there. There's one on the left and one on the right. I don't have a blower, like I mentioned. The main difference between a pump and a blower is that water goes through the pump, and the pump takes the water and, obviously, as the name implies, pumps it somewhere else. A blower does not connect to the water source at all. It simply pushes air into the jets. But you also want to note that there's those little shut-off valves there. You can only really see the left one, but there is one on the right as well. And that's so that you can cut off the water supply in case you need to disconnect the PVC pipes there going from the pump and into the control panel or on the other side of it. So that's very useful if you're fixing leaks, or if I had to replace that, I wouldn't necessarily have to drain the whole hot tub to do that. I could just use those shutoff valves to cut off water so it doesn't just come gushing out when I loosen those pipes. Anyway, my name's Jeff Campbell. This is my channel, Hot Tub Owner HQ. I also have my website, hottubownerhq.com. And on both channels, I'm sharing all of my best tips with you. If you like this video, please give me a thumbs up. It's a great way to tell YouTube that this is a decent video that other hot tub owners need to see. If you have a question, if you're contemplating buying a used hot tub, make sure and ask that question down below and I will answer it, I promise you. I'm answering every question I get until the point where I'm getting hundreds of questions and comments on every video I put out. But it can totally be worth it to buy a used hot tub. Just be prepared to do a little bit more work than you thought. Check your breaker panel to make sure there is an open available slot. And if there's not, just know that that's going to cost you a little bit extra. And again, I've got a video that details the 23 most crucial things that you need to know before you buy your first hot tub, including what we talked about today, but there's 22 other things you're going to want to know also. That video link is down below in the description, but you'll also see a card for it here on the screen, and I will see you in the next video.